From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Hickson, joined by a special guest over the phone.
This is the hardest, the baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV. Yours truly, Hector Bosa, the one and only, the creator of all creators and the things of all things that go on CTV, because I am the face that runs the place, the horror of management that it seems. Am I the Kevin Owens to the Shane McMahon? Who knows? Stay tuned for next week until I get a call from the upper echelons. So, Jamie, with all this madness going on, how can we calm things down? March Madness is coming up.
Yeah.
Yankees are hot.
Well, it's always preseason.
Great loaded team. You've got to have a great loaded team. On paper, they're fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Mets are on the cuff if their pitching holds up. The Giants, will they go after a quarterback? Will they go after a wide receiver or linebacker? The Jets, will they go after Cousins or Bridgewater or a quarterback? Will they trade up? Will they trade down? Will the Nets come out of the basement and still have a good team? Will the New York Knicks rebound in this youth movement? Will comply to exceed our expectations, or will they be their own demise? These are the questions that you must answer. Are you willing to accept this mission, Jamie Hickson?
I'm willing to accept it. It's a lot to try and digest, but that's why we're here. That's why we have an hour to try and solve these issues, or not necessarily solve them on our own, but try and offer some suggestions, if we will.
And don't forget, the envelope's going to blow up in 5 seconds, like Mission Impossible.
Yeah, just like Mission Impossible. Which, by the way, they're going to release another Mission Impossible movie later this spring and summer, if you can believe that.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, hey, listen, it works. If it makes you money, remember, this world revolves around credit and money.
Yeah.
Nothing else. No other values except the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
That's why we have 3 plateaus. The rich, we got 5 plateaus, actually. We got the rich, we got the famously rich, we got the super rich, we have the high class, mid class, and then you got your low class, mid class, and then you got your people that don't have money, and then you got your poor people.
Mm-hmm.
They're really people that don't have any money. So our structure is chaotic at times too. But speaking of chaotic, you have all these teams supposedly tanking. People want to get their money's worth. What's happening with Dirk Nowitzki? Should they hold him back, or because the NBA doesn't, again, all going back to money. They want the fans to see these people that they're paying for. They're paying to see Dirk Nowitzki. They're paying to see LeBron James. They're paying to see the top players. But yet, the coaches have a different idea, and so do the GMs. They want to try out the new young bloods that are coming up in the league. So how do you satisfy both of the thirst of each person?
It's funny you mentioned this because there was an article about what the Mavericks have been doing. They're purposely benching Nowitzki down the stretch of games. And coincidentally enough, the Mavericks are losing a lot of these close games. And now the NBA is basically coming out and not necessarily sending a memo, but they're sending a not-so-subtle message to a lot of these teams that they're not appreciating a lot of this tanking that's going on by all of the so-called lesser teams. I don't like really using the word tanking because that implies that they're purposely trying to lose.
Yeah, but they are.
And this is something that really disappoints me because I was under the impression that the idea of playing these games was to win, not to try and get a high draft pick.
Yes, but you also have to remember that they're also, since they're tanking, they are trying, in some teams, they're trying to see what the youngsters that they have, can they produce? The young guys that they have, they're giving them a chance to produce. Are they worthy of being on the team for next year? Can they hang with the NBA? Because remember Billy Donovan. We thought Billy Donovan was the greatest thing since he came out of college and played like he was so scared when he went to the New York Knicks.
I never thought of him as a hotshot prospect, not in the least.
Well, when he came out of college, he was a hotshot prospect.
He was not, Hector. He was never a hotshot prospect, not even close. He was slow, he was undersized, and the only reason why he stuck around with the Knicks was because he actually fought his way through camp. He was never, ever a hotshot prospect, not even close.
When he came out of college, because remember, Billy Donovan in his college days, you couldn't talk about Billy Donovan without talking about the team because he carried the team on his back.
It wasn't just him. He had a whole bunch of different guys that he was working with.
That's true too. But if you remember, if you go back to the reels, you would hear Billy Donovan. Oh, Billy Donovan does a great pass. Oh, Billy Donovan is a great, excellent shooter. You know, you would hear the hype of Billy Donovan. But, you know, for instance, Malik Monk, they're already willing to give up on this kid.
Which I don't like in the least. They make him a top 10 pick, and for what? Just so they can play him about 15 minutes a game? That is no way to try and help this kid progress in the league.
Well, this is what I'm saying. For those people that are so-called tanking, let's say they are tanking, but they want to try out their young guys. They want to finally give them the chance to say, you know what, you made it to the pros, kid. Let's see what you got. Because the G League and the European League, it's totally different than playing in the NBA. I mean, look at Frank Nikita, 19 years old. I wish Clyde Frazier would get this kid and mentor him, but for some reason, New York Knicks won't do it. But I wish they would, because Clyde was saying that he's 19, he hasn't filled out yet, and he can play both positions. And he's got good potential. Now, how long do you wait for that potential? 1 year, 2 years, 3 year tops? You know, at what point do you give the kid a chance? Just like Malik Monk.
He needs to be given a chance now.
And he is. And he is. And he's making his mistakes. And he's going to make his mistakes. But will he learn from his mistakes? Do people learn from? That's why you got Moutier. That's why, I mean, you're going to have next year, if they keep who they have, about 6 guards, including Courtney Lee, the guy that hurt his arm, Brooks. You got Emmanuel Moutier, Franklin Nikita, and you got Terry Burke. Okay?
You mean Trey Burke.
Trey Burke. I'm sorry. You're right. Trey Burke. Look what you have. You know, these guys are 23, 20-year-old players. You know, this is not like the military where you go in, you sign in at 18, and they teach you strictly, you know, this is how we do things. This is a whole different ballgame.
And I hate to tell you this, man, but Trey Burke has had about 4 or 5 years in the league with Utah and Washington, and now here, and he has been a real disappointment in that span. There's a reason why he went to the D League in the first place earlier this season. It's because he just wasn't panning out the early part of his career. Now, it just so happens that he's got a little bit of a spurt going with the Knicks, but that's because their point guard position has been completely and utterly disastrous the entire season. And now they make a trade for a kid who basically is the mirror image of Frank Ntilikina. They basically got 2 of the same type of point guard. Seriously, who is the one that is making the decisions on that franchise?
Well, again, you have a guy in Trey Burke who wanted to go to the New York Knicks, who wanted to go to the G League. He could have gone to any other team, but he, by faith, by religious faith, he wanted to go to the G League to prove to the Knicks because that's where he had the best opportunity to get a chance. And Malik Monk, did he get a shot? Who knows? You don't know that situation because, like you said before, Malik Monk should get a chance, but did he get a real chance? You know, some players can come off the gate and do wonders, like Smith. LeBron said, yes, the Knicks should have picked Smith. Okay, fine, but you know what?
Dennis Smith is having a really good rookie season. He's having 10 times the season that Frank Ntilikina is having.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
And once
right.
again, it's making the Knicks look absolutely ridiculous with their scouting.
But does it really? Because this
it does.
This just because you do great in your rookie season. Look at Henan Gomez. If you want to go down that route, all rookie. And what happened this year? He was benched. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen, whether it's in any sport whatsoever. You know this to be true. Injuries could come up. Even with the Nets are floating their boat too. The Yankees, like I said, they're right there. The Yankees are there. Did they have that much of an adjustment? Look how long the Yankees had to get to those guys. Look at the suffering that people had to go through and management had to go through. Pay cuts had to go through. Look at what they went through until they finally did it. Now, on paper, they're supposed to make it. Now, will they make it? Who knows? Who knows? You know, an underdog can make it at any given time. You know? And as I said before, you have all these players in any sport. Look at that guy with one hand.
Yes, Shaquem Griffin is who you're talking about.
Yeah. He's doing fantastic.
And he had one of the best camps. He had one of the best scouting combines of any rookie prospect. Him and also Josh Allen. But the guy that really shined in the scouting combine was Saquon Barkley. The same Saquon Barkley who I'm hoping that the Giants get with the second overall pick. That's if the Cleveland Browns don't get him first. If the Browns don't get him first, the Giants have to get this kid.
Well, if the Cleveland Browns do get him, who should the Knicks go for next?
Who should the Giants go for afterwards?
Yeah,
then they probably would have to go for a quarterback.
Okay, and
my guess would be, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold are 5 quarterbacks who could potentially go in the first round. We might have a potential quarterback class of 83 all over again. But let's see. As far as who the better prospect is, well, if you ask anybody at the scouting combine, they'd probably say Josh Allen. He was on point with his passes. He had better footwork. Whereas with Josh Rosen, he had major problems with accuracy. His feet were not very good, and he was completely overthrowing and underthrowing receivers during the camp. Lamar Jackson was the same way, although his problem was more along the lines of footwork than anything else.
Now, do these tests really pinpoint their accuracy in what they do in the pros?
You can never, ever go by what a kid does in the scouting combine. I mean, there could be a kid who could wow scouts at the combine, and then he gets drafted, and then he becomes a complete bust, and vice versa.
Exactly. And how many players off the top of your head have done that, have been the biggest bust, and have been the greatest player of all time? Name one player.
You mean a bust during the scouting combine and then lights out? Does the name Tom Brady ring a bell?
Well, look at that. Now, who's been the best player and became a bust? Off the top of your head, if you can remember.
Tim Couch, Jamarcus Russell, Andre Bruce, Steve Emtman.
Those are a lot of players you can name the top of your head.
Ryan Leaf also. Ryan Leaf was another. He was disastrous. And that's just to name a few.
Yeah. And, you know.
There's also the matter of the Wonderlic exam. The Wonderlic exam basically tests a person's intelligence. If they score high, they might be someone to look at in the draft, and then they become a bust. And vice versa. If they score low on the exam and they get drafted, they might catch people off guard on the field. You just never, ever know with these combines.
Are these done separately, or is this done in the combine?
The Wonderlic exam is done afterwards. I think it's done around April or so, or just before the draft in May.
You see, sometimes I don't believe in exams because even though, you know, if you talk about normality, we all have to take exams, whether it's school, civil service, or whatever else. Sometimes people are great test takers.
Yeah.
And they could, like you said, bust in their jobs. These could be the same thing. We're trained, at least a lot of these players are trained to take tests. You know? So, again, I ask you the same question. Who was the worst test taker that became a great player?
The worst test taker that became... Actually, Tom scored pretty well in the Wonderlic exam. He just got drafted really, really low. But as far as somebody who took the Wonderlic exam and scored high, then wound up being a flop afterwards, Ryan Leaf.
Oh, geez. So he flopped. So he was great in the combine, but flopped in the... Okay. Wow. Oof. What do you do? That's the thing. I mean, you have to find out. You have to have some type of radar to see if it's worth it or not. Just like in basketball now they're saying that the second rounders are, you know, you can always get a dream in the second round, or even in the third round of football.
Yeah.
You know, how many people have gone the third round or the fourth round of football and became better players than the first round player?
Joe Montana.
Look at that.
Joe Montana was a third-round pick by the Niners. Brett Favre, second-round pick by the Atlanta Falcons. Both are in the Hall of Fame.
Look at that. Oh, and look at that. Look at the promise of all this test taking, jumping high. He's got a wingspan of this thing, and how high he can jump, and how fast he can run, and Do you think the guy with the supposed disability, does he have a chance in making it into the a football team?
He definitely has a chance. And you're referring to Shaquem Griffin.
Yes.
And by the way, he has a brother, Shaquille Griffin, who wound up playing for Central Florida as well. And I think he made it into the
Seattle.
NFL about a year or two ago.
Yeah, he's in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
He's with the Hawks.
Yep.
Seattle Seahawks, yeah.
It's funny that we're on the subject of the Seahawks because supposedly they want to try and trade away Michael Bennett, and they're already talking with the Falcons about a potential deal.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. There's a Michael Bennett from the Seahawks to the Falcons deal on the table. It's just a matter of whether they can agree to terms or not, and also what's going to be given up for him.
Did you hear that the Giants may trade the second-round draft choice?
This year's second-round pick or the second-round pick that they had from last year?
This year.
Their 2018 second-round draft pick?
Yeah. Because they said if they get a better... Put it this way. If you think of it like the Herschel Walker trade.
Oh, wow.
If you can get a deal like that, because that Herschel Walker trade was a damn steal.
You can say that again.
Oh, my goodness. That was the robbery of all time.
They even made an ESPN 30 for 30 short story about it. They called it the Great Trade Robbery. Trades like those come once in a lifetime in any sport.
You can say that about Danny Ainge. He did the same thing.
Yeah, he did. He completely robbed the Brooklyn Nets of a whole bunch of future draft picks. And what did the Nets get out of it? One whole season of Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry going to the playoffs and lasting as far as the second round. That was it.
Yeah, but you see, they wanted to win. You see, they were built to win. And like we were talking about before, it's a crapshoot. It's gambling. You don't know if these guys are going to pan out on your team or not. Just because you get veterans or young players, is it a crapshoot?
It's always a crapshoot.
There's always a crapshoot. So let's say, for instance, Malik Monk goes to the New York Knicks. He was succulicious in the Hornets. He could be a great player with the New York Knicks.
He was somebody I wanted the Knicks to draft last summer. Either him or maybe Dennis Smith.
Actually, I liked Frank Ninikita. I actually liked him.
I didn't have a problem with it last summer, but quite frankly, he's just not getting a fair shake by the Knicks at all. He needs to be a starting point guard.
And he is. He's starting to be. Remember, he's 19 years old. The Knicks are strange to me sometimes. They do some horrific things, and they do some of the strangest things sometimes. But, they're bringing him nice and slow. At 19 years old, you still haven't developed your body yet.
Well, I see what the Knicks have done, and then I see what some of the other lottery teams, past and present, have done. Look at what the Kings are doing with De'Aaron Fox. Look at what the Phoenix Suns are doing with Josh Jackson. And what about the Timberwolves 3 years ago with Karl Anthony Towns? Karl Anthony Towns is a superstar now.
Yeah. And we were also talking about if the Knicks get that forward.
Depends on which forward you're talking about.
One of the two that can make an actual impact for the team. I forgot the two that we were talking about before.
Are these veteran players or are these college kids?
Off the draft. If you knew they were coming out of the draft.
I know who you're talking about.
We're talking about the two forwards that we were talking about, which they do need.
Miles Bridges from Michigan State.
Yeah.
Mikal Bridges from Villanova.
Right. Are those impact players that if the Knicks stay around 8 or 9, if they're there, will they make an impact?
Possibly. Quite possibly. Mikal Bridges, Mikal Bridges might be a lower top 10 pick, but somebody like Miles Bridges, he has a chance to go maybe in the top 3 or 4. But then again, look at all of the other guys that might potentially declare. There's Marvin Bagley from Duke, the 2 kids from Arizona as well. If he has his 100% health, maybe Michael Porter Jr. from Missouri. That's somebody to consider as well. There's a lot to consider in this draft, though. We have to see who's really going to be serious about wanting to declare. And speaking of college in the NBA, there might be a chance that the NBA will finally give the kids out of high school a real fair shake this time, because apparently the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, is talking about possibly getting rid of the one and done rule and letting these kids turn pro right out of high school.
Now, you see, here's the problem with that. You're ready for this?
Oh, there's a lot of problems with this.
You're gonna get a lot of problems because there are very few people in this stage in their lives that you can say, okay, Moses Malone, straight out of high school. LeBron James, I think, straight out of high school.
Yeah.
Very few, Dr. Duncanstein.
You're talking about the late Darryl Dawkins.
Darryl Dawkins, straight out of high school. Not out of Compton, out of high school.
Kobe, Kevin Garnett, too.
Yeah. So, you see, those are diamond in a dozen. Now, some of these kids will come out because they need to feed their families, depending upon where they live.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be forced. Now, then you're going to put pressure on them in junior high school and even in public high school or Catholic high school, depending upon, what year you're in. There are going to be a lot of pressure to try to make it so you're already trying to develop them in a very young age.
Hopefully the NBA will put in a policy where these kids can only be high school graduates as they turn pro, and we don't have to go overboard and see NBA scouts going into junior high school gyms looking at the next phenom.
Well, at least I would say just give them a shot, let's say in the B League, or make up another league where they could actually let the teams do like the baseball teams.
It's funny you mentioned the G League because the NBA is trying to make more use of the G League so they can have these kids declare, and if they don't make it to the NBA, maybe they can get drafted into the G League. And there's even an idea that's being made in Australia. The Australian Basketball League is looking to sign college freshmen to contracts. I mean, they're not going to be making as much money as here in the States, but it would still be a good start for these kids in the event that they don't get picked into the NBA.
But how do you judge them? Do you give them the same test, let's say, or the skill level as a guy from college?
I think.
Or do you give him a little bit more leeway and go, okay, he's 17, but he's 19. What's the difference between 17 and 19?
2 years.
And they also, at 19, unless you're in phenomenal shape, whatever sport that you're in, because, again, if you look at baseball, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds get drafted.
16-year-olds get signed out of the Caribbean, and they wind up going into either the Dominican Summer League or straight into rookie ball. That's what the NBA doesn't have. I'm thinking maybe the NBA should start making more use out of the national team and have these kids maybe suit up for the United States and try to polish their skills there.
Well, that's why you had do European players, when they come here, are they ready for actual let's say, American Basketball League? Are they ready for American basketball? Because European basketball is different than American basketball.
Unless your name is Dirk Nowitzki or Tony Parker, the answer is no. And since we're on the subject of basketball, Hector, we would be remiss if we did not go back to discuss what's going on in the college game. You mentioned March Madness. They already started with the college tournaments, the conference tournaments. The NCAA tournament is going to begin exactly 1 week from tomorrow night. Unfortunately, there is a major scandal that seems to be overshadowing all of the tournaments that are going on right now. Because Yahoo Sports did a story in which at least 10 to 15 colleges were caught in a pay-for-play scandal. And one of those schools is in our neck of the woods, Seton Hall. Supposedly, Seton Hall paid Isaiah Whitehead $26,000 to enroll on campus. And one of the kids that might be the first pick in this coming draft, Marvin Bagley Jr.,
right,
supposedly got $60,000 to $70,000 to enroll at Duke. So overall, you've got Duke, Seton Hall, Michigan State, Kansas, Auburn, Kentucky, Wichita State also. Those are just a few of the schools that wound up being named in this pay-for-play scandal. And because of this, it's already cost Rick Pitino his job, and also Sean Miller, who also was named in this case, supposedly paid one or two of his, was actually caught on an audio tape. He was caught on an audio tape talking about how much to pay two of the prized freshmen that he's coaching right now. And it wound up costing him, I think, 2 or 3 games. He wound up being sent home for 2 or 3 games because of this entire controversy. So maybe there's something to this prospect turning pro after high school thing after all. It's just a matter of how to maneuver this whole thing.
Rick Pitino, I think, will always have a job. Whether it's college or whether it's NBA.
I don't think he's going to be working in the college game anytime soon, man. After what he did was just completely and utterly dirty.
Because we're still it's still up in the air.
He already got fired.
Yes, but that doesn't mean he's guilty.
They caught the dude, man. Not only did they catch him, he basically presided over not only helping to pay players, but also some escorts, if you will, being entertaining the players, if you know what I mean, to try to entice them to attend school in Louisville. All of this was under his watch.
I guess guilty until proven innocent. Or innocent until proven guilty. I mean, guilty until proven innocent.
He's not getting a college job anymore. I can tell you that right now.
But he'll still get an NBA.
I don't even think the NBA wants anything to do with him either. Especially after the reputation he's built for himself.
Put it this way. Give him at least a year or two. They always like to rehash these guys coming back. Trust me when I tell you. I mean, if Fitch was around, he would be a coach to this day. Some of these coaches to this day, they like to rehash. Instead of giving new coaches a chance, they like to rehash the old the old coaching. And Rick Pitino is not that old that he can't coach in the NBA still or cannot be an analyst as an NBA. And also, we are a very, very forgiving country, depending upon what the situation is. So, and some people say, well, what does analyzing a basketball game have to do with what he went through? What does one have to do with the other? One has nothing to do with the other. A guy's got to get a job. He's got to live. He's got to.
He has plenty of money in the bank where he can probably lay low for about a year or two.
You're assuming that he does, yes.
Oh, he's got a lot of money in the bank. Don't forget, it's not just from coaching. He also had a whole bunch of endorsement deals.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
The dude's a millionaire.
But remember the saying, just because you have a lot of money, that doesn't mean you have a lot of money. Because the faster you get that money is the faster you take it out, unless you are a smart person, know how to invest in money, not to overextend. Because a lot of people, when they get money, they like to overextend. Look at poor Mike Tyson. The first thing he did was buy a big house with lions and tigers and bears on Mars.
I think Rick Pitino is a lot smarter guy than you're giving him credit for, man.
No, I'm just saying.
Not only that, but there's a reason why we have not heard from him since September.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? He's doing it the smart way. He's laying low. He's laying low.
And it's probably for the best.
Oh, speaking of which, going back to tanking for a moment, remember the new rule that they're going to put in next year? That the head of basketball is trying to implement for those people so that those people don't tank. That the first three last teams get the same ping pong balls. It's not as before where the last team gets, let's say, 22 ping pong balls and the second last team gets, let's say, 17 ping pong balls. It's not like that. I think the thing is going to be 3 teams or 4 teams that are at the bottom of the barrel get the same amount of balls, and then the last team get the same amount of balls, and so on and so on. That way it makes it more competitive.
Right.
Supposedly. I don't know how he's going to make it for 2019. But what's happening, who's going, besides the nonsense that's going on, who is the darling of March Madness this year?
Well, we already know that 5 schools wound up clinching spots for the NCAA tournament. Murray State became the first, coming out of the Ohio Valley. Then you've got Radford, which came from the Big South. Michigan won the Big Ten tournament yesterday. This is their second straight tournament title. There is also Lipscomb University, which, if I'm not mistaken, is located in the South. They wound up taking the Atlantic Sun Conference, and that's 4 teams that I know of that wound up clinching spots in the NCAAs. Tomorrow night, here on Staten Island, Wagner College has a chance to clinch their second ever NCAA tournament berth. They are hosting Long Island University of Brooklyn on campus in Grimes Hill tomorrow night. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's a 7 o'clock game that's going to be on national television. So let's hope these kids from Wagner get their Northeast Conference Championship tournament and make their way to the NCAAs. This would be really, really great for that college if they were able to make the tournament.
Forget that. It would be good for Staten Island.
It would be good for Wagner. It'd be good for Staten Island. It would really give Staten Island a big, big profile.
Yeah, the forgotten borough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. Because even when Wagner does make it, they don't televise their games. So I'm surprised that they're actually televising it.
Well, I remember the last time they made the tournament. It was 15 years ago. They televised their game with Pittsburgh, and they actually hung tough with them for about 10 or 15 minutes. So Wagner has had a bit of history on their side. I mean, even though they've had one tournament victory, or one victory that led to the tournament, hopefully this year they'll be able to really come through. And the fact that it's against LIU, a school with a lot of history here in the city as far as college basketball, this is Wagner's chance to really shine here.
Do they have a shot?
They definitely have a shot. They're very well coached. Bashir Mason has done a good job with that program the last 3 or 4 years or so. And they've also got some really, really good guard play as well.
Well, that's good. It's nice to hear that. That's why I like to do Staten Island news, and would like to talk about Staten Island because we always get the wrong end of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And in most cases, when it comes to Staten Island, again, even when you're born here, they won't say, well, from Staten Island, New York. They'll say, no, from New York, New York.
Mm-hmm.
As if they were ashamed
of
being a Staten Islander. So I don't get that. But did you hear that Hillbilly Jim
Yes.
is going to be inaugurated into this so-called Hall of Fame where you can't see any pictures or any statues of these guys?
Yeah, I don't even know if they even have an office for the Hall of Fame.
No, they don't.
The only Hall of Fame that I know of that doesn't even have a home office.
And it's the truth. I think the NWA has a Hall of Fame, the National Wrestling Alliance, and there's some other ones.
Mm-hmm.
They actually do have an actual place where you can see this. WWE is inaugurating everybody, but they're not. Where do you see these people?
Yeah.
There's Hillbilly Jim, Ivory, the Dudley Boys, Goldberg.
That's a really... And also Jeff Jarrett.
Jeff Jarrett, Double J. Now, I'm wondering, did he give up Global Force Wrestling or TNA or Impact Wrestling?
That's a good question because
that's
basically his creation.
Exactly. Global Force Wrestling was his creation, and I actually saw him in Staten Island when he was in the Staten Island ball field.
Right.
And I think he was in for alcoholism, and I think WWE did the wellness program on him.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something to see. I wonder if he's still with the company, or did he do it again and give up the company once again? He'll always start great, but he'll always burn himself out to the point where he'll lose it again.
Yeah.
And that's about the third time that he's done that. But it is now. Let's say that it is official and it's a great thing. He's worth it. He did a lot for wrestling.
Jarrett, you mean, right?
Yeah, Jarrett.
Of course.
Jarrett. Ivory did a lot for wrestling.
Yep.
The Dudley Boys decorated. If you want to really believe that it's true, but go by the money. They did do well in ECW, WCW.
They also revolutionized the tables matches.
Yes, with Edge, Christian, and the Hardy Boys. Best table match you'll ever see, probably.
Mm-hmm.
One of the craziest ones. But they only sacrifice their bodies when they need it. Now wrestlers nowadays, they like to sacrifice their bodies for everything, and they're always doing the same damn moves over and over and over again. It's starting to get repetitious. Oh, he's got to do his big finishing move in order to beat this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous to some point, but I'm glad for these guys they do deserve some type of an award.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're professional stuntmen and actors and actresses.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't like to use actor for everybody. I like to say actors and actresses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's my thing.
Yep.
Some people, now we're into political correctness. I'm not. Actors and actresses, like me or hate me, you're going to always remember me, plain and simple English. But hockey, what's going on with hockey nowadays?
Well, at least the Rangers are trying to save a little bit of face. They've already won their last couple of games, so at least they're able to make things a little bit closer. The Devils, unfortunately, lost a big game at home to the Vegas Golden Knights in Newark last night. And the Las Vegas Golden Knights continue to defy expansion logic. Best team in the Western Conference this year and challenging for the President's Cup trophy this season for the best team in the league.
Nevada.
Seriously,
Vegas.
who saw the Vegas Golden Knights even winning this many games in their first 2 seasons, much less the first season of pro hockey? This is just a testament to the scouting department and how vigorously they've tried to put together a contender.
Well, here's the thing. When they do an expansion, and maybe you can, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When they do an expansion on a team, each team is supposed to give up their best prospects, the best 2, 3, or 4 best prospects, right?
They're supposed to give up, I think, 1 or 2 players off their roster.
But does it have to be their worst, or does it have to be their best? Or
it could be anybody.
Type of
They have to submit a list of at least 2 players that can go unprotected in the draft. And everybody else gets protected.
Okay. Because again, I'm going by people not knowing, not people knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about is people know. Because a lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
Because you're right. They were the scouting for Vegas for the Knights it's outstanding. How do you I mean, what team have you ever seen that has started from scratch and went from nothing to something?
The closest that I can think of is the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, this is their 20-year anniversary. The first year, they won between 65 and 70 games. Second year, they were division champions. Third year, they were a pretty solid team. But by the 4th year, though, they were already World Series champions. I think they became the quickest expansion team to win a world championship in any sport.
Do you? Don't forget that the Red Bulls are starting their season up very soon.
Mm-hmm.
They have one more game left with a foreign team, and they start their season.
Yep, and so does NYCFC.
Look at that. So we got soccer to look forward to, and hell, we may even have cricket along the way as well.
Maybe.
But now, do you think that the NBA, the grievance people, are going to say to the New York Knicks about Joakim Noah, hey, are you going to have to play this guy or release him?
Eventually, they're going to have to come to a decision. What do I think is going to happen? If the Knicks really wanted to get rid of the guy, they would try and find some way to buy out his contract. If not now, maybe over the summer. That's what I think they're going to do.
Because they said they were you either extend his contract, like Bobby Bonilla.
Mm-hmm.
Give him the Bobby Bonilla treatment.
Bobby Bonilla is going to be paid until 2035.
Like I said, give him the Bobby Bonilla treatment. Or you settle for a buyout because and some teams actually wanted him. If they would have let him go, people would have wanted Jared Jack and Joakim Noah. They actually want these guys for the playoffs because he does have experience. Because there's another guy that he never really got a full shot. But whether Jeff Hornacek pushed him or not, whether some people saying that's true, some people saying that's not true, you don't know. Will Jeff Hornacek be there next year, considering what's happened, considering he's already getting a bad reputation? So, who knows, but do you think that the NBA will step in there and go, eventually you're going to have to decide what you're
Should
going to
they
do with
step
this
in?
kid?
Maybe. Will they step in? To be honest with you, I think they have more important things to worry about than Joakim Noah.
No, they actually have baseball has the strongest union.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball has one of the strongest unions.
Baseball has the strongest union.
Yes, the strongest. Now, do football and basketball? I'm not sure.
Basketball's union is pretty strong, though. I mean, they pretty much made it clear that they would only have a rather soft salary cap. Football has a rather, I don't want to say a hard salary cap, but it's gotten to the point where the union in football has become very, very poorly run by whoever the guy is that's running things right now.
And you look at the NBA players having to talk to the officials.
Yeah, that's another thing.
On the same page with them.
Mm-hmm. Because it's gotten to the point where a lot of calls continue to be overlooked, and then you have touch fouls that are considered fouls. Or the guy barely touches anybody, and he winds up getting called for a foul.
And he does a good job acting.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even call palming or traveling as much as they used to.
Nope.
Because they want to let the game flow. And God forbid that they try to foul out one of the superstars. When was the last superstar you've seen foul out in the middle of a game?
Very few.
Exactly. Why? Because they're trying to keep the people that need those guys in contention. They
just want to let them play.
Yeah, and that's wrong. I mean, if they call a foul on the guy that's not so famous, then you got to call the same foul. You got to be equal, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't play favorites.
But then again, if you have so many fouls called in a game, then everybody's going to be thinking that the referees are trying to take over. It's a double-edged sword, man.
No, you're absolutely right. But if the average basketball player gets the same, if the average basketball player gets the foul, then they should call it on the superstar too.
Mm-hmm.
Which they don't, and that's the thing. That's as in baseball. A young pitcher gets in there, gets a close strike, but because he's, let's say, Jerry Rice or Hideo Matsuki or whatever, or Reggie Jackson. Oh, no, it wasn't a strike. Reggie said so. Reggie said it wasn't a strike.
It's funny that you mentioned this.
It's one of those things.
It's funny that you mentioned this because there was an article on the internet that talked about the team that is getting the least amount of respect from the referees this season. It happens to be Brooklyn. They have been they've been recorded for 25 non-calls for the entire season.
And oh my, I tell you.
And the team that's second is Dallas.
And no wonder these guys have a gripe. They're always griping with these referees.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, very few of them are actual NBA players. There's about one or two of them that are actual NBA players, so I can understand them. But I can't understand the ones that have been in the league for 15 years, 20 years, and still going,
yep,
you're blowing the same call over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, I may not be Michael Jordan, but give me the same damn call as Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Or LeBron James, if you Because the last time I think a professional actual superstar fouled out it was when they had about 2 or 3 minutes in the game. He fouled out in 2 or 3 minutes in the game.
Yep.
And they're winning anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the only time. But I tell you, we're talking and shooting the breeze, and this is actually knowledgeable for these people here. We're not going down. We don't have paper in front of us. We don't have pencils. We don't have. There's not even newspapers today. We're just talking about what's heart content because will the Jets get Bridgewater or Kevin Cousins?
You mean Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins, excuse me, I guess. Or do they go after them in the draft pick? This is a show that must. This is the person that must know, and this is the show that must say yay or nay if we have any say in the matter, because we are actually media.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say? What do you say?
I say the Jets should draft a quarterback.
What thou say, and who thou shall they get?
Who the Jets should get? Even though
if they're there.
Well, I advocated about 2 years ago for Lamar Jackson from Louisville. I think he's got the athletic ability, and I think he's got enough arm strength that he could probably make plays with both his hands and his feet, in spite of what he did in the combine. And even though I'm a little sour on these Oklahoma quarterbacks, maybe they should give Baker Mayfield a look. Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma. Because every time I've seen him, all he does is make plays. He makes big plays here and there. Not only that, but the kid is a warrior who loves football, who loves to compete, and he will go through a brick wall for his teammates.
Well, but will you go through a brick wall through the Jets' teammates, considering what players the Jets have? Now, let me ask you, are the Jets in the rebuilding stage, and do they have good young players, or do they have to get rid of...
Some of the young players are good that they have. They do have a couple of good young players.
Defensively, they're much better defensively than offensively.
Defensively, they're solid. I mean, you can't go wrong with Leonard Williams and Jamal Adams. Offensively, I would love to see them bring back Austin Safarian-Jenkins as their tight end. And I would really like to see them maybe get another running back, because now that Matt Forte retired, the only guy that they might have in the backfield is Bilal Powell. They can't just rely on Bilal Powell to try and get all of the carries. They need an every down running back to take the pressure off of him.
And even the Giants, too. Are they more offensive, defensive?
They have to improve.
Everything now?
I think they have to improve on both sides of the ball, but first and foremost, get an every down running back. Get Saquon Barkley. He would really change the face of that franchise if he were available.
But are the Jets built to win now, or are the Giants built to win? Are they in the building stage, the Giants, or
the Giants are definitely in rebuilding mode?
Okay, are the Jets in rebuilding mode, or are they built to win now?
I think they're probably closer to winning now, because they already have the benefit of a really soft schedule for next season. So hopefully they'll be able to take advantage of that soft schedule and try and win double the amount of games that they've won each of the last 2 seasons.
New York Yankees, are they built to win now?
They're definitely built to win now.
Okay, New York Mets.
They're definitely built to win now. In spite of what the naysayers might think, they are built to win now.
Brooklyn Nets, built to win or still rebuilding?
Still rebuilding.
New York Knicks, building or now?
Building.
Building. The Bulls, building or now?
The Chicago Bulls or the New York Red Bulls?
No, the Red Bulls.
Definitely built to win now. Just like the New York City Football Club.
Buffalo Bills, are they built to win now?
Win now. And unfortunately, we're out of time, Hector. We got 10 seconds left. Thanks to everybody for watching at home. For everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night, everybody.